This is the Lifesaver Model 1275 hardwired ionization smoke alarm with battery backup. In this video, I want to test and overview this alarm and talk about the company that used to make these. The first thing I want to do is test the alarm. I could just press the test button, but to me that's a little bit boring, so I wanted to do a real functional test. Off camera, I have a fog machine that will help us out with making some smoke to give the sensor itself a test. By the way, this alarm is currently 26 years old. It was made in 1997, and generally smoke alarms have a life cycle of 10 years. By the way, you just heard that chirp. That's because I do not have a 9-volt backup battery installed. But anyways, so yeah, the smoke alarm is definitely out of date. I haven't tested it with smoke before, so I have no idea if this will work or not, but we'll see right now. So here we go. I went ahead and... that's weird. Anyways, I went ahead and unplugged it just so I can kind of talk a little bit about it. You might have noticed that the tone it made was kind of weird. It wasn't the normal code 3 we are used to. It was like continuous but kind of pulsating. I believe they called this 5/6 tone or something like that. And that's because back then they didn't really have requirements with what smoke alarms sounded like, so typically they were either continuous or like a 5/6 pulsating tone. And this was probably one of the last alarms produced that did that. I know by the late 90s, early 2000s, most smoke alarms did a code 3. The Lifesaver alarms that were the hardwired version were able to be interconnected with other Lifesaver alarms. So right here I have the interconnect wire and another identical Lifesaver smoke alarm. So I wanted to show off this feature, and I will use the test button. Something kind of interesting is this alarm has a higher pitch compared to that alarm. Let's move on and overview the alarm. Here it is. Of course, it is a hardwired model with battery backup. They also made battery-only models, and they pretty much looked identical to each other. The only differences on the battery model is this AC light was not present and the mounting bracket was smaller. Right here is the test button. And it also has a red LED light on the inside that occasionally flashes when the unit is powered up. As I just mentioned, this is the AC light, which to me looks like an additional button, but it's just a light. It normally lights up green to indicate there is power on the back wiring connections. We then have the alarm itself. There's the grill for it, and these neat 4 lines. And then there's some text molded into both the bracket and the alarm itself. We also have this hole on the top. That is for this little insert that was included when you bought these alarms. What these were for is when you place it in like this, it prevents anyone from removing the alarm off its base. If you're in a hotel, apartment, or rental facility and you don't want anyone tampering with the alarm, possibly disabling them, or just removing them off the ceiling or wall, you can insert this, which again locks it in place where you can't remove it. The only way to remove it is by taking out this insert, and then now you can take it off the base. Here's the base itself. We have the mounting holes depending on your electrical box. There is a foam gasket they added, which is a good idea. Here's the alarm itself. On the back we have the label. We then have some more labels down here. You might see this one label that says 11-97-1. That indicates the date it was manufactured. And that either means November 1st, 1997 or January 11th, 1997. Either way, it was made in the year 1997. And that's actually a very late production model of this particular model of smoke alarm, the 1275. There's some more text and labels. And then this is the battery door. We can open it up. There's some text on the underside of the door. We then have this interesting mechanism, this little spring-loaded latch. This prevents you from removing the battery and putting it back on its bracket. But unfortunately, it's easily defeated. You can kind of push it back into place and close it. But it was a good idea. They then have this cloth, And what that's for, if I can grab a 9-volt battery, the way you install these is slide it over this little mechanism like that underneath the cloth, and then you can close up the door, put it wherever you need to. But when you need to replace the battery, you open the door, pull on the cloth, and it comes right out. So kind of a neat way of doing it, so you don't have to fool around trying to get the backup battery out. And then we have the wiring harness plug-in, and this is what the wiring harness looks like. You simply just attach it. There we go. And a good idea they made is the wiring harness's base is very big, so you can't open up the battery door because there's live connections. So that's kind of a good idea. You have to unplug this first before replacing the battery. So that's the alarm overviewed. So who made these alarms? On the back we saw where it said Lifesaver, but that actually isn't the company. The company that made these was called Firenetics, and they're still in business today. Firenetics was established in 1986 in Hong Kong, and then in the following year of 1987, they began to manufacture smoke alarms for the North American and European markets, and they called them the Lifesaver series. You might recognize some of the older Firenetics smoke alarms if you are a collector or just know a little bit about alarms. And this alarm right here, the 1275, was the last version they produced under the Firenetics company, because in 1997, Kidde purchased Firenetics. Now, at the time, Kidde was not known for their smoke alarms. They were only known for their fire extinguishers and fire suppression systems. They didn't produce smoke alarms at the time, but they wanted to get into the smoke alarm industry, so they purchased Firenetics. And Firenetics produced the smoke alarms for Kidde, and they still do to this day. So when Kidde first purchased Firenetics, they began to do some changes. They tacked on the Kidde name to all of the smoke alarms produced, and then did some redesigns of the alarms they sold as well. So here's the first version. I have some alarms to show as examples. This alarm was produced in 2003, and it is a battery-only model, so it lacks the AC light and larger base, but pretty much it's very similar. Oops. So you can see the similarities between the two. It still has these 4 decorative lines. The engraved text is pretty much the same. They added this "Do Not Paint" label, and then you can see the alarm grill was changed. And if we look on the back, if I take it off its base, I'll take the base off of this one, dropping stuff. You can see it's pretty much an identical back. I mean, pretty much very similar. There's a few labels that are missing. But if we look, it says Kidde Firenetics. So this is what they did early on. They just put on the Kidde name to these alarms. Sometimes they called them Kidde Firenetics. Other times they called them Kidde Lifesavers. I don't really know why. There was some variance in the name. Maybe they couldn't decide. I'm not sure. So that's the first change. And then here is the next variation. This one came out in 2007. Well, this particular one was produced in 2007. And you can see it looks similar to the model previous and sort of similar to the original model. Again, this is a battery-only model. You can see now they have the Kidde name on the outside. They have more of these decorative lines. They changed around the text, and the grill's the same from the previous style. I'll take the base off. And the back, again, looks very, very similar. But now there is no reference to Firenetics. It only says Kidde. So around this time, Kidde decided to dissolve the public Firenetics brand and just call all of their alarms just the Kidde stuff, just known as Kidde. However, Firenetics continued to manufacture the smoke alarms for Kidde. And this leads us to present day, where we have the current variation of the 1275. And here it is, but we have to turn it sideways to kind of see the resemblance. This is the Kidde P12040. It is a hardwired photoelectric smoke alarm with battery backup. They also make these in battery only as well as ionization. And you can see it's still got the remnants of the original 1275 model. The AC light now is flush mount to the alarm housing, which I think was a good idea. But they kind of still have the, test button and AC light side by side. The alarm grill is still there. Again, it's changed over the years, like with the previous models. But now they decided to turn it sideways and add this little like keyhole slot design, and then they changed the text. This alarm was produced in 2020. We can take it off the mounting bracket. You can see they still have that foam gasket. I'll take this one back off its bracket as well. And here's the back. Again, very, very identical. And you can also see where it only says Kidde. But something interesting, and if you've kept up with this video, you'll know that Firenetics produce their alarms in Hong Kong or China. But with these newer ones, the label now says made in Mexico. So at some point, Kidde decided to shift their lower end smoke alarms to their Mexico plant, while their higher end alarms are still made at the Firenetics plant over in China. So kind of unfortunate these aren't still produced by Firenetics, but it's neat to see that the original 1275 alarms are still produced kind of in spirit. Of course, Kidde has other smoke alarms they produce. They don't, all of their smoke alarms aren't based off of this, but again, it's kind of neat to see it still living on. Something else a bit interesting I wanted to add on is when I was researching, it turns out that Firenetics actually produces some of the EST line of commercial fire alarm system smoke detectors, so kind of neat. And now we come to the end of the video all about the Firenetics Lifesaver Model 1275 smoke alarm. I hope you enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun making the video as well as researching the material behind everything. It was pretty fun figuring out this stuff because I really didn't know anything about this Firenetics brand before I made this video. I want to start making more videos like this. I really, again, had fun, and I think it would be cool if I made videos showing off the stuff in my collection and the backstories behind them. So again, I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions about this alarm or anything else, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I'll try to answer them as best as I can. Check out some of the other videos I have on my channel. Hopefully you would like those as well. So that's all. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.